Hello everybody, so we're back with another video today. We're going to be moving on and looking at the TOEFL exam, right? Specifically, how to ace the TOEFL exam, no? Well, what we're going to be looking at is really what can students do in order to effectively have a game plan and make sure to score very highly. This is very important. What do I mean by this? Really, what you should do is you should have a plan, right? So let's say, okay, I have maybe 1 month or maybe 1 month and a half to study for the TOEFL exam. How am I going to maximize my time? Okay, so send or have a game plan in order to make sure that your study plan is efficient so that when you do the actual TOEFL exam, you are ready to go. Also, make sure to really look into how you want to do the test. Okay, TOEFL has made a change, perhaps some time ago, but before you would just have to go to the to an accredited area or sorry center where you would do the test there, right? Okay, but now you have an option to do it at home. Okay, so look which option it fits you, right? So really you have to also look into, do I want to do it at home or do I want to do it at a learning center? There's really pros and cons to both, really. I tell my students here at English Pro to be honest with yourself. So, what are some pros about doing it at home? Number one, well, obviously you have comfort, right? You're at home. It's your environment. You can perhaps be a little bit more relaxed, right? I think that's probably the biggest pro for doing it at home, right? Another big benefit of doing it at home is regarding time. Okay, so you can really organize your day much easier. So let's say you have your exam at 8:30 in the morning or 9, let's say. So it's your home. You can wake up at a time, you can have a coffee, read over your notes quickly, maybe even watch some TV, look at a podcast, watch an English Pro video, right? Just to relax a little bit, and you're there. You go on your computer and you do it, right? So those are really the two big benefits, no? Now, how about in the learning center? Well, we have to look at the pros here. So, number one, it's everything is organized for you. So you don't have to worry about internet connection, for example, right? If you have a question, no, before the exam, you can ask someone, right? Also, these are professionals. So, for example, if you have a question about can I bring in X? No, can I bring in a book, or can I bring in a watch, or little things like that, right? They can the people there at the accredited center or learning center will tell you, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. Right. Another pro is people sometimes they feel more comfortable in a group setting, right? So they feel more motivated. So if you see that there's a lineup of people and they are doing the same thing with you, you feel motivated. Okay, no, I'm in an exam setting. I know what I have to do, right? So like if you're at home, like you can just be, oh no, you're just at home. You're thinking about other things. You're more of in a mentally, you're more in a kind of a relaxed state. It could be, right? Now, of course, cons. Let's look at some cons in regards at home. No, so Well, connectivity, right? The big one, right? Internet connectivity. Make sure that you have really good internet connection at your place, right? Because if you right, if your internet goes down, it could be it could be your fault, and you may have to do the exam again, right? A noise, right? Noise. It could be, for example, maybe they're doing construction outside, right? Or you have a really loud neighbor, right? Who likes to play music in the morning, right? So, not good, not good, right? And maybe some distractions. Maybe you have a neighbor who will just knock on the door, and what can you do? You can't get up, right? And if she's persistent, or you know, it's very distracting, right? So look into that. And the learning center, of course, no, and sometimes you know the noise, right? You have noise. This is 20, 30 people. You know, so you're usually concentrating and you're zoning in, but yes, still, right? There could be a case where someone you're in a crowded space, people are talking loud, and it could be a little bit distracting. So that's kind of the first kind of tip, right? Okay, so now let's look at the structure, the general structure of the TOEFL exam. So you have four core sections, right? You have reading, right? Then you have listening, then you have speaking, then you have writing. It's always in this order, okay? So in the reading, on the reading section, you have three passages, okay? So it's always the same. You have three passages, and then you have 10 questions that you have to answer after every passage, okay? So always make sure to look at the time, okay? Always make sure to look at the time to make sure that you are not going too slow, right? So remember, so if you have three passages, know that if the time is going too fast, yeah, you have to move on, right? So we do strategies like on how to make sure that this isn't a problem here at English Pro. Okay, so very good. And remember, on the reading section, you have different types of questions, okay? And there are a lot of strategies regarding the reading section, which I won't get into now because it's kind of like an overview on how to study for the TOEFL exam. I'm going to make a video about how to specifically do well on the reading part on the TOEFL exam on another date, right? So that's that. So now the listening part, right? So remember, you basically have different types of listening questions, okay? So you have for example, these are all the listenings are about academic things, right? So it could be a listening about biology, history, philosophy, business, law, etc., right? So you either have a professor talking about a topic, okay, and then you have multiple choice questions, okay? Remember, listening is all multiple choice questions, just like reading, okay? It's all multiple choice questions, right? So yes, and then also you can have more peer questions, passages, listenings. So you can have, for example, a professor talking to a student. You can have maybe two students talking about an academic issue. Or you can also have maybe a university bureaucrat, no, or someone who is connected to the university talking about maybe an issue, right? So, for example, there can be a question of where a student goes to the administrator's admissions office and asks about admissions, right? So, what is the process of getting your grades, of getting your things, right, by email or maybe by in person, right, on paper based. So and then the university worker will explain it. It's like a discussion, and you would have to answer questions about that. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. It's all timed, right, and you have to answer multiple choice questions. And once again, just like the reading, you have different types of questions that we look at here at English Pro, how to answer these questions effectively, right? Uh-huh. Right. Please remember in the listening part, you do not go back. You cannot go back. Yes. You basically, the listening is finished, and you cannot do what? You cannot rewind. No, one more time, one more time. No, no, no. You can't do that, right? So basically, once you listened, you have to do the questions right away. Okay. Whereas in the reading, you can go back, just so you know the difference there. Okay. Now let's move on to the speaking section. Well, the speaking section, you have four main question types, right? So, right. So these are questions that. You have, for example, independent question and then integrated questions. The first one's like an opinion question, and then you have integrated questions, which are academic questions, where you have to listen to people talk, and then you have to respond, okay, accordingly. So that's basically the speaking. And the writing part, well, you have two types of questions. TOEFL has made a change recently, very important. So be careful if you're studying to have an up-to-date book. TOEFL is constantly making changes, yes, to the TOEFL exam, right? They do a lot more changes in comparison to the IELTS. TOEFL is always changing, so be careful. So now there's an integrated essay where you basically have to read about a topic. So maybe let's say mining in Peru, right? And then you have a corresponding lecture, also where the professor will talk about the lecture, and you have to basically get the main in a nutshell, right? For sure it's more complex, but you have to basically summarize the points and write an essay, right? And then you have now, which has changed, is called discussion board questions. So basically you have to just write your opinion about a particular topic, right? It's in a discussion board. So that's the basic overall structure, okay? Remember, it's very important overall to do timing, yes, to make sure that you have it segmented, right? You have this amount of time, this amount of time, this amount of time, this amount of time, and you go, it's finished. So timing is very important when you're studying. Make sure that you time yourself, and you always have a timer running. Even when you're just practicing normal questions, you're not doing a mini exam, mini test, you're just studying, always try to time yourself, because that's really a big issue why sometimes students don't do very well on the TOEFL exam, because they do it well, but maybe they do it in 2 hours, right? But or 3 hours, right? So yeah, okay, but remember, it's much less than time. So get the timing right is very important. So remember, knowing the test format is half the battle. Okay, so that's basically generally tip part one, tip number one. Okay, so how to study for each section. Okay, well, the reading section. Okay, so remember always to well, number one, read as much as you can, generally speaking. Okay, get as many academic books you can get on a wide range of topics on the internet. Maybe you can buy some books off of Amazon, or you can also read online, right? Newspapers. Read as many newspapers as you can, right? The Economist, New York Times, stuff you can get for free. But try to read academic things, journals, academic journals, right? But on a wide range of topics, right? Okay, fine. I'm studying. Let's say you're studying business, right? And you don't like philosophy. Well, just think, okay, think of it like in an open-minded way. Okay, well, I don't like philosophy, but maybe I'll learn something, and I have to, right? I have to kind of understand that language, understand in general some topics, so that could really, really help you there, right? That doesn't mean you have to read, in detail everything, just to kind of keep your mind fresh, to try to read as much as you can. Okay, next thing about reading, vocabulary. We do a lot of vocabulary exercises at English Pro here. Vocabulary is crucial. Okay, I would recommend you can get it online. Just look at academic vocabulary, a lot of free stuff online. You can also look at TOEFL vocabulary. You can get that also free online. Or if you want, you can buy a book. Here also at English Pro, we have a lot of PDFs where we go over, where we have academic vocabulary. It's very important. Like I said before on a previous video, vocabulary you can really use for all sections. Like you can use it for the reading section. Obviously, when you're reading, you're going to have academic vocabulary. On the speaking section, when you're speaking, right, you can use a couple of these words also. And of course, the writing section, if you can incorporate, well, you're going to see academic vocabulary, but also if you can use that in your writing, that would be great. And of course, listening, definitely, you're going to have a lot of academic vocabulary. So do that. It's fun, right? You can do exercises with academic vocabulary. There's a lot of interesting resources you can use in general or here at English Pro. Okay. Now let's move on to one more thing about the reading. Sorry. Remember to skim and scan. Yeah, this is very important when you're reading and when you're doing the test. It's very important to skim and scan. Skim and scan, not to just read very completely in detail. You have to know every word. You have to really remember to test, right? You have to get the major information to answer the questions, right? So use the strategies that you have learned or that you will learn accordingly. Okay, now let's move on to listening. Okay, yes, so you could, one way is listening, you can practice with podcasts. So watch academic podcasts, TED Talks, for example. You can also look at, there's a lot of resources, National Geographic maybe, or just academic lectures online. If you can look at, for example, business MBA lectures at Harvard, at Yale. Look at that, right? Also, you can look at lectures from other universities, not just the Ivy League ones, but just in general, right? Very important. Okay, BBC, CNN, right? Okay, listen to as much as you can. So this is but watching a movie, yeah, but it's not really the same, right? In English, sure, it's great for your overall English learning, sure, not a problem. But try to watch more academic things for the TOEFL test. Okay, now speaking, of course, record yourself. Okay, so for example, whenever you do a question type on the TOEFL test, record yourself. Very important. But now we have cell phones. You can just record yourself very easily, right? And listen to how you're sounding, right? And then always ask, how does this sound? If you have a teacher, you can always ask, how does this sound? Be honest with yourself. Timing, right? So let's say a key problem, for example, with the task 1 on the TOEFL exam, which I think students have the most difficulty, because you have to speak in 45 seconds, right? So sometimes students talk too much. You would think that students talk too little, right? But they talk too much. So what happens? They say, okay, do you want to study in your hometown or do you want to study abroad, for example? Okay, well, you remember, you have to speak for 45 seconds, right? You have 50 seconds to prepare, but you have to speak for 45 seconds. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What do students do? They talk way too much. Sometimes I have to stop students. Well, I really like hearing your life story and your reasons why you want to study overseas. But remember, that's for another time. Here you have to be very concrete. And here at English Pro, we have very nice templates to help you, which makes it much easier. Follow a template if it helps you. Yeah, I would say in my many students, I would say the majority of them like to use templates, but there is a minority that does very well and doesn't use templates. So please remember. Also remember, you're the one doing the test. Okay, I'm not doing the test. I have a lot of templates. I have a lot of strategies to help you along the way. But remember, if you really feel more comfortable without a template, then don't use a template. Don't use a template, but make sure that you have some type of guidelines here, specific ideas. No, don't just go completely in the cold, right? Practice. If you don't use a template, practice as many questions as you can. Okay? Very important. Remember, don't let teachers tell you, no, you have to do it like this. Remember, ultimately, you're doing the test. A teacher is there to guide you, to help you, but the teacher has to kind of shape his classes or her classes to suit your needs and the way you learn better. Okay, that's very important. Okay, now we're going to move on to writing. Okay, templates for essays, practice organizing ideas. The writing section, a lot of times students have some difficulty with this part, right? Now it's a little bit easier, the TOEFL exam, because they've gotten rid of the independent essay question, which was really difficult because you had to really it was very similar to the question on task one. So, for example, do you agree that video games are harmful for youngsters, for example, right? So it was hard because students had to craft an essay on this type of question. So that's no longer there. Now it's a discussion board question, which is much easier. You have to write one or two paragraphs. I think it's 200 words. It's very short. It's much easier. So that's a plus. But nonetheless, you still have to organize your thoughts and write the right. So very important. And just generally speaking, to writing is right. It's hard, I know, but try to write. Maybe you can keep a journal. Just write what you did in that day for a paragraph. What did you do that day? Write a paragraph a day. Keep your mind in the writing form. Or when you're on, and I tell my students also, when you're on, for example, Facebook, or maybe another social media where you have to write. For example, LinkedIn. Write, even right there. Write something there. Write about an article, just to keep your mind in the writing frame of mind. Next thing is organize your thoughts. Remember, writing isn't just writing. You have to organize your thoughts. Remember, you have, for example, for the integrated writing question, you have 20 minutes to complete it. So it's not just 20 minutes writing. 5 minutes of that time, 5 to 6 minutes, is organizing your thoughts and then writing the actual essay. Okay, so that's very important. And there are templates here at English Pro to help you organize your thoughts and to come prepared. So if you memorize the template for writing, it will really help you for the majority of the students, I find. Okay, now let's move on to part 3. Okay, yes, so remember, I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but study strategies. Make a study plan, okay? So study, I would say 1 to 2 hours a day, split by skill. Okay, so you should really, what I do with my students is I make them right away, or pretty much right away, I tell them to do a complete test. Okay, and oh my gosh, sometimes the grade is not the greatest, right? Their overall production is not the best. So they're, oh, teacher, oh my gosh. But isn't it better to know right away where you stand? So let's say you score 18 out of 30. Sometimes it happens, students on the listening, right? They get 18 out of 30. And then on the speaking, I give them their feedback and I say maybe 19 out of 30. Okay. And maybe etc. for the different sections, right? Very low. But you know where to stand and you know what you need to do in order to achieve the score that you need, right? So it's good to start off with an honest place, I would say, right? So don't let teachers tell you, oh, you'll be fine. No, it's good to think positively, but you should start off with a concrete starting place. Okay, yes, practice under timed conditions. Okay, so like I said before, remember, don't, especially in the speaking, don't just speak, time yourself, okay? In writing too. Listening and reading, you have time, but yes, just I would recommend reading a lot and you'll see that you'll be fine if you just read a lot and listen a lot. But always have like a timer there, to when you're doing questions on the TOEFL to see, for example, a reading question. You should never go over 2 minutes really for any question. Yes, some questions are more difficult than others, but really if you see that you're going over a minute and a half, 2 minutes for each question, no, you have to just move on. It's better to move on and maybe come back later in the reading section to see if you can answer the question. The worst thing on the TOEFL is to get stuck, because what happens when you get stuck? You start to panic. Oh my gosh, I don't know the answer. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Okay. Yes, this is another crucial point. Don't memorize answers. Okay? Don't memorize answers. For example, especially in the speaking and the writing section, students, yes, there is a template, right? But what are sometimes students, they see, okay, there are websites, for example, let's say most common speaking questions. And what do students do? They memorize, like, so let's say there's 30 common speaking one questions. They'll memorize them. That's not really a good strategy. Have a template and just be natural. Be as natural as you can. Okay, because you might think, okay, yes, I know these 30, and what if you get a question that's not in the top? What if you get a question that you've never seen before? Panic sets in. Oh no, I've never seen that question. What do I do now? I don't write. So don't memorize. Okay, go with templates and just practice as much as you can. Yes, the next point, which is very crucial, is in regards to official practice tests. Now, do as many practice tests as you can. I really push my students to do official tests, unofficial tests, online, as many as you can. We do them during our classes also to see how they're doing. Remember, yes, you want to improve your English, great. If you just want to learn English, there are different things you can do, right? But remember, the goal here on this test is to show that you can, that you belong in a university setting in a foreign country, in Canada, Australia, the US, etc., right? So you have to demonstrate that. That's all you're doing. You're showing your capabilities. That's all you're doing. So you have to focus in that way, right? You have to show that, okay, I have to do this test and I have to pass and I have to score this, and that's it, right? So remember that. So do as many tests as you can. Okay. Now let's go on to the last part of this video regarding motivation and mindset. Okay, so don't study. I tell my students, don't study until you're tired. Study until you're consistent. Okay, and this goes back to the study plan. Remember, if you organize a nice study plan for yourself or your teacher, whenever we do this here at English Pro also, we organize a plan for you. Okay. Cramming the night before is not a good idea. Really, you won't see a good results there. Be consistent. Be consistent. Remember, 1 or 2 hours, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Maybe you can do more on the weekend. Perfect, but stay consistent, right? So don't do it like, okay, 1 week, 1 week a lot of work, and then the next week a lot of work. Yes, and then especially what I have students sometimes is they're studying for the exam, but something happens, right? Oh, they can't do the exam this month. Next month they plan to do, and they're studying, and oh no, something happened, a family emergency, and they decide to study maybe or do the test in 6 months, right? So what happens there, right? I would say don't just forget what you've learned. Just try to do a little bit. Stay consistent always, okay? Or if you have a month, remember, stay consistent within that month, and you will do much better. You will be fine for sure. Okay, so yes. Yeah, like I said, small daily habits. Don't do long cram sessions close to the test. That's not to say that you can't, maybe if you have a day on Saturday and you don't have many things to do and you want to set aside some hours for TOEFL, great, sure, but take some breaks, right? And remember, crucial, divide time accordingly. Okay, so this first overall diagnostic test which you have done, so let's say that you're better at reading and listening. Okay, usually students are better at reading and writing a little bit, right? Those two are a little bit better on average, studies show. So, but maybe you're different. It doesn't matter. But still, maybe if you want to focus, maybe, okay, 60% on speaking and 40% on reading, that's fine. But don't make it like 80%, 20. Because if you're not doing reading, you think, reading is fine. I read all day at work and I have clients from all over the world and I will be fine. Well, but still, it's not different, right? You're reading, it's a different type of reading also. Could be, right? So be careful with that. Try to be as equal as you can within the different sections. Don't forget sections. Don't forget sections. Okay? And believe in progress, right? Be confident. Yes, I'm doing it. Look, oh wow, I did a practice test on reading. I did 28 out of 30. Oh, my teacher looked at my speakings and he gave me good results. Take this into account. Yes, I'm doing well. Be positive. All right. Keep motivation at top of everything. Right. Well, that's basically it for today's video. So once again, remember, okay, just to kind of summarize, generally speaking, so we talked a little bit about just the different the different ways you can do the TOEFL test. Okay, so remember, you can do it at home or you can do it in a accredited learning center, depending on your country. It's usually the same. Remember, look at the pros and the cons. Think about that. Remember to study each section and how to study in each section: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So remember to do that. Yes, remember to make a study plan. Remember, do, for example, hours daily, split shift, practice under time conditions, and to do official or unofficial tests that you could find online. Okay, and remember, motivation and mindset, the last point that we discussed. Remember, keep a positive a frame of mind. Find a study group, find some friends, study with people, with the students, right, or maybe colleagues. Do a WhatsApp group, maybe, right? Just combine your expertise, right? That could also help. And of course, find a teacher, find a program, right? It'd be great here at English Pro. You can get in touch with me, join the English Pro family, and right, we will make sure that you do well, right? Or find a teacher. That's always a good way to help you, right? Okay, so that's basically it for the for the video. So remember, good luck, stay positive, and do your best.